Okay, so right now we're going to just kind of quickly review fiscal policy. So this is on the back of your reinforcement number 4 worksheet in your packet. And a couple things that we need to take a look at. First, we need to know that expansionary fiscal policy is always used during a recession. That's when it's going to be most effective. Okay? Put here during recession. And the action of the government is to give the economy a boost to fix the recession. So to do that, our government can do two things. One, they can decrease taxes. And two, they can increase government spending. Tax less, spend more are the expansionary fiscal policy tools. Now, when we do this, we are expecting that there's more money in the economy, more spending that is going to start to happen. And so we're hoping that both of these scenarios are going to increase the aggregate demand. And so the goal then, if you look down at the graph below, the goal is to fix this recessionary gap that's taking place in our economy. And so we want this AD to shift to the right. And if we do it appropriately and spend the right amount of money or cut taxes by the right amount, we should see that that aggregate demand is going to shift to the right, and our recessionary gap is going to start to change. And so that's how you would graph on the aggregate supply, aggregate demand graph. That's how you would change that economy. Now, on my chart here, I'm going to put that impact on price level output. There would be an increase in price level and also an increase in output. And I got both of those pieces of information from my graph below. When AD increases, price level goes up, output or GDP also increase. Now the last thing, and maybe the most difficult thing for us to understand about fiscal policy, is when we use an expansionary fiscal policy, that is going to force us to have an increase in a budget deficit. Our government's going to have to borrow money because we're taxing less and spending more. Okay? And that budget deficit forces our government to have to borrow money. So whenever you're asked about interest rates and the loanable funds market, you are always going to use whenever you're asked about interest rates and fiscal policy, you are always going to use the loanable funds graph to determine that change. So I'm going to shift my demand for loanable funds to the right, showing that our government needs to borrow money because they have a budget deficit. And that's going to cause the real interest rate to increase. And so that's what I'm going to put on my chart. The increase in budget deficit forces our government to borrow. The increase in borrowing causes the interest rates in the economy to go up. And so you can see now all the different ways that our economy can be impacted because of that expansionary fiscal policy. The main goal is to increase aggregate demand and to stimulate the economy. The side effect of that goal is that we had to borrow money, and that's going to cause more borrowing and an increase in interest rates in our economy. On the second half of the page, you can do the same thing for a contractionary fiscal policy, except all of your information is going to look the exact opposite. Okay?